This god roll right here is a game changer for fusion rifles in PvP, and no one is talking about it. The Burden of Guilt is an adaptive frame fusion rifle. It's an archetype that's often forgotten about as it's in between the rapid fire frame and precision frames, both of which have been meta in recent times. What makes the Burden of Guilt so special is its perks, and the role I want to discuss today lets it have the charge time of a rapid fire frame while maintaining the power of an adaptive frame fusion rifle. There are other roles you can spec here, like deep stability rolls that are extremely consistent, or a deep range roll that can extend the one hit KO distance. However, if I wanted a fusion rifle that could map from a distance, then I'd just use the main ingredient. So I really want to emphasize that what makes this fusion unique and really shine in the current meta is to reduce the charge time to mimic a rapid fire frame while maintaining the potency of a higher impact fusion rifle. I'll get onto the role that allows you to do that in a second. If any of you played with rapid fire frame fusion rifles last season, they were unbelievably powerful. Guns like the Likely Suspect, Cartesian Coordinate, and Zealot's Reward all deleted Guardians in unbelievable times. This allowed for a playstyle that let you ape with fusion rifles and not particularly pre-charge. Honestly, it was a game changer for a non-regular fusion rifle user like me. The recent nerf to rapid fire frame fusions this season, however, have made them near unusable, especially in this high resilience meta. You often find your opponent surviving with a sliver of health. Well, that's where the Burden of Guilt comes in, as I said. Let's look at my role first, and then I'll go over the perk pool as a whole. Remember, if you find any of what I'm talking about today remotely useful, slap that like button, as that helped me out a ton. So the role I'm using in the video is Small Bore, Accelerated Coils, Killing Wind, High Impact Reserves, Range Masterwork, and it's got an Adept charge time mod. The key to achieving what I set out is a combination of perks that reduce charge time and as a result impact, but then having high impact reserves to counteract that impact nerf, so that you maintain a respectable 5-bolt kill. That is the crux here. You'll notice I'm using an Adept Burden of Guilt, and that isn't necessary, but it does help a lot. And that's because the Adept charge time mod reduces charge time by 40 milliseconds without reducing impact. Now the number to remember for this archetype of fusion rifle is 5. 5 is the magic number. The fusion shoots 7 bolts, and for you to feel like you aren't leaving people minuscule health after firing it, you want the fusion to kill in 5 bolts. 6 bolts feels way too inconsistent, especially in this high resilience meta. The base fusion without high impact reserves hits for 39 per bolt, meaning it will 5-bolt kill people at 7 resilience or under. For those 8 resilience or over, 6 bolts is what it takes, and the fusion will start to feel a tad inconsistent. The key to making this fusion rifle amazing is maintaining this 5-bolt kill across all resilience levels if possible, while lowering the charge time. One thing I haven't even touched on yet is that this fusion rifle rolls with the origin trait Alacrity. Now Alacrity gives 20 stability, 10 aim assist, and 10 range, and my god, it is noticeable in Rumble and when you're the last person alive in a 3v3 mode. The gun becomes borderline broken when Alacrity is active, so keep that in mind when you're using it. Hands down, this is the fusion of choice for Rumble currently. So let's go over the perks to make this happen. Let's start with the barrel. So to decide the barrel, it's important to look at the recoil direction for the gun, which is 55. This means the recoil will tend vertical as the number ends in a 5, but it won't be a tight vertical pattern as the magnitude of the number overall isn't that high, like say 95. But it does tend vertical, so something like Arrowhead Break isn't a necessity here. Furthermore, when I go over the perks later, they lack the typical stat boost for stability and range. So I recommend Small Bore here to give a nice bump to both range and stability. You could pick Arrowhead Break, which would take the recoil direction to 85, but I did not want to lose out on more stability and range, and 55 recoil direction is actually okay for this fusion rifle. For the battery, typically most people would recommend Particle Repeater for a stability boost or Projection Fuse for a nice range bump, but here I'm going to recommend Accelerated Coils. Now this reduces the charge time by 40 milliseconds, but it also reduces the impact of the weapon, so each bolt hits for less. As you can see, this drops the damage to 38 per bolt. Now we can only 5-bolt kill at 4 resilience or less. This brings us nicely into our key perk, High Impact Reserves. High Impact Reserves kicks in when you have 50% or less ammo in your magazine. The gun has 6 in the mag, and therefore the perk will activate when you have 3 or less fusion rifle shots in your magazine. The damage boost scales from 3% to 6% in PvP depending on how low in the magazine you get. When using both accelerated coils and high impact reserves with 2 in the mag, your bolts will hit for 40 each, meaning now you can 5 bolt kill Guardians at 9 resilience or lower. And if you have 1 in the magazine, it practically goes to 41 damage per bolt, which is enough to 5 bolt kill at any resilience level. Remember, with the nerf to special ammo economy and with good ammo management in terms of when you reload your fusion, you can actually always be at 2 bolts or less in your magazine. For something like Trials, where you practically never have more than 2 shots anyways per round, this perk is amazing. Now we skipped over the third column, which on my roll we had Killing Wind, whereby upon getting a kill gives me 20 range, 40 handling, 50 mobility, which is going to make chaining multi-kills much easier. I love Killing Wind for 6v6, but for something like 3v3, I'd prefer Elemental Capacitor, which when using a Void subclass will give a whopping 20 stability boost, or something like Perpetual Motion if I'm not running a Void subclass, which gives up to 15 stability and handling when you have 2 stacks. For the Masterwork, I found that adapters felt more consistent than rapid fire frames, so I opted for a range Masterwork so that my fusion rifle would have a max range of 15.88 meters, which for a fusion rifle which now has a charge time of just 580 milliseconds is a very respectable range. For comparison, my old Likely Suspect god roll only had a max range of 14.5 meters, and after the nerfs, it feels way less consistent even within that smaller range. Now, you could opt for a charge time Masterwork here, and instead of accelerated coils in column 1, you could go for something like Projection Fuse. This would achieve the exact same thing as the roll I've stated, as a charge time Masterwork also reduces charge time by 40 milliseconds and reduces the impact the same as accelerated coils. Stacking both charge time Masterwork and accelerated coils I wouldn't recommend, because even with high impact reserves, it won't be able to compensate for the double impact loss from the perks to reliably 5 bolt kill high resilience Guardians. Now, for the mod, I highly recommend Adept charge time here, as that reduces charge time by 40 milliseconds without touching impact. As a result, with accelerated coils and an Adept charge time mod, you will reduce the charge time by 80 milliseconds from 660 to 580, and honestly this feels so close to a rapid fire frame. I know some of you like Adept stability and range, but Adept charge time for this specific role we are trying to achieve is the go-to. If you don't have an Adept version, then I would recommend Counterbalance mod to try and make the recoil direction as vertical as possible, though if the 70 recoil direction without arrowhead break doesn't sound that appealing to you, to me it doesn't, then using something like Quick Access Sling or Targeting Adjuster could also be viable. So here is the final summary for god roll options: Small Bore, Accelerated Coils or Projection Fuse, Elemental Capacitor or Perpetual Motion or Killing Wind, High Impact Reserves, a Range Masterwork or a Charge Time Masterwork, depending on what you chose for the battery, and then an Adept Charge Time mod. This results in a 580 millisecond charge time, being able to kill Guardians up to and including 10 resilience with High Impact Reserves with just 5 out of 7 bolts, and it has a range of nearly 16 meters. Don't go for deep range, don't go for deep stability in an adaptive frame. Try this rollout, and I promise you, you will not miss rapid fire frames, especially in this high resilience meta. If you found what I talked about today remotely useful, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Destiny content. I'm Mr. On It, and that's it for today. Peace out, guys.